this breath does. And what I'd like to do today is stepping into breath, rhythm, the chakra system, and the endocrine system, and how all of this ties together in respects to the neurochemistry of our body, which is really what we emotionally feel and sometimes perceive, and how we use these tools. We do it already. We do it with, pharmaceuticals. We do it with all types of drugs. We actually can shift our mental and emotional state, sometimes quite artificially and quite drastically. And all this is showing is that we can actually do that on our own. We have that ability. It's just a matter of it's not really common knowledge nowadays. It's kind of ancient knowledge. And, we'll talk about this, but what I really want to do is get into the experiences of it so that you can just feel it and see, yeah, does it make sense or not from an experiential standpoint? Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay, so what I always like to do first is I like to get a little bit of movement going, because I think I've used this example before, is I look at the body as being kind of like a farmer's field, that before you are gonna water it, fertilize it, and put seeds in it so something can grow, what you want to do is you want to till it. Because if you don't till the soil, the top of it is quite solid, and the water and the fertilizer and the seeds will just run off, right? And the body isn't much different. Is when we have emotions, and as you know, as stress, tension, pressure, and friction builds up in the body, we can build armor. And if that armor stays around for long periods of time, it can turn into a character structure, a posture, and mainly an emotional type posture. So what we want to do is we want to open this up and free the body a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is you're both sitting in the chair, focus right at the sternum here. And we're simply going to come forward like this. This is the inhale. You're arching the back so the back is like a nice bow. And then you're going to push in and push that place in, and you're bowing backwards. So it's hands can be on your sides or on your knees. And you don't need to do this forcefully. Start gently and create kind of a dynamic movement with this. Go ahead, close your eyes so you can feel the whole spine. Maybe you can feel some places in the spine where there's a little bit of tightness. Big inhales as you come forward and complete exhales as you go backwards. And go ahead and notice as you do this how these areas that were tense slowly start releasing. And maybe another area that's a little bit less tense comes up. And we're not really needing to do anything here. We're just paying attention, allowing the movement to slowly release the body. Allow the breath to come deeply down into the belly. Breath is about 50% of this posture right here. And notice what happens. The body starts to really open up. The lungs are opening up. Notice if your mind and your body is kind of settling a bit. Allow the exhale to be complete. Try to pull your navel in towards your spine as you exhale. That pulling in towards your spine really compresses the abdominal area and allows for any friction, any tension that's held there to be released. And go ahead, if you could, keep your chin level to the ground so you're not bowing the head. You'll notice the spine gets a little bit more activated that way. All right, let's take a deep inhale, center. Go ahead and suspend your breath gently. Eyes are closed, shoulders are relaxed. Allow your face to relax. Just pausing here for a moment. Slowly exhale, eyes are still closed. And get just a little appreciation for how little movement and breath can shift our experience. All right, next what I'd like you to do is with your eyes closed, drop your head to your left, your ear to your left shoulder. Simply let the head hang there. You might feel some tension along the right side of your neck. As your head is sitting there, you can roll it back and forth about an inch or two. And as you do, I'd like you to pay attention to your right side of your shoulder. You feel different muscles activating as you roll your head. And you might find there's little strands, some that are tighter than others. You can stop at those areas and just let the head hang for a moment, allowing those areas to open. And you can continue rotating again. And go ahead and take your right shoulder and pull it down towards the ground. And you get to regulate how much you're stretching this right side of your neck. And go ahead, bring your head all the way back. So as if you're looking up at the ceiling, let the head hang completely backwards. And the same thing, let it rotate side to side a few inches. You get to feel both sides of your shoulders, the one that was just released and the other side, the left side, to determine where you're holding the majority of your tension. And you can go ahead and let the head rotate over the right ear to the right shoulder, letting the left side of your neck become tight and stretched, and go ahead and rotate the head back and forth. Again, paying attention. This is not just as much as we're releasing the body here, we're exploring the body and really becoming precise on where we hold our tension. Not just on the left side of the neck, but where exactly and what muscles. So that we can become aware of those and release those specific ones. If you find them, you can stop at that place and let the head just hang and move it just gently back and forth, releasing that space. If you want to add a little bit more of a stretch, you can take the left shoulder and pull it down. Deep inhales and exhales. And go ahead and let the head come down to the front, the chin touching your chest. Rocking the head side to side. Now feeling both sides that have been stretched hopefully released. And let's go ahead, take a deep inhale and come up to center. Eyes are still closed. And slowly exhale, just pause for a moment. And let's open our eyes. Can you feel the soil being tilled? Yeah,
Totally.
it's simple. But we have this propensity to be in the outside world focused in on doing stuff, and we lose track of what's happening in here. And when we do that, tension slowly starts building. It accumulates like, I live near Huntington Beach. I always think of the barnacles that are on the pier. The tension builds like barnacles over time. And first, the barnacles, when they first get there, you can take them off really easily. But when they've been there for a while, they become more deeply ingrained. They become a somatic pattern that take a little bit more work to release and help that space of your body remember what openness and flexibility and lack of stress is. So that's why we move, is to prepare the body for more subtle activity, which we'll be jumping into. All right. Why don't we jump into some breath right now? This is really nice. Pattern breathing. We're going to be talking about rhythm today and how it affects the body. So this is, you're breathing through the mouth, a circled mouth. So it's going to be like this. And you're going to be inhaling 4 inhales, small inhales to a full breath. So it's, and then exhale through the mouth. Eyes are closed so you can feel the breath. We'll add a little music to this. Notice on these mouth inhales how the breath goes all the way down to the belly. And you can really feel the breath or the lungs very quickly. The mouth is O-shaped, so there's a little resistance as you inhale in. The exhale, about half as fast as the inhale. So you're allowing the body to relax. Watching the breath with your awareness, allowing the breath to bring you awareness into your body. And that 4th inhale, having a full breath of air, the lungs full. The rib cage expanded. Maybe feeling a little bit of tension so that as you exhale, that tension can release with your exhale. All right, let's take a deep inhale. Go ahead and suspend your breath. Allow yourself to float in this breath hold. Nothing to do but just to watch. Feel what is shifted within your body and your emotions. And slowly exhale. And let's open our eyes. We can tell by your faces what changes had already taken place. That's what's cool about this practice. It's really nice when you have a room of like 30 people and you just see like the whole energy of the room change just from doing something that, you know, everybody's having their own personal experience. But you can feel how like the ego dissolves a bit. You know, the rigidness in the body releases. There's just a bit more space, you know, which is really the whole purpose of it. Maybe we could just quickly share, you know, both with the physical and the breath part, what you experienced.
Right now, as I sit here, there is this sense of like real spaciousness, like looseness and spaciousness, and really knowing where, oh, there's some tension here and here's some tension, and oh, something's, you know, coming up in my fingertips, but having a lot of space in the body, and then also the space of awareness to be able to really zero in on all that. And the breath was the breath was definitely soothing. The breath was definitely soothing, and the way I did it was, you know, the four parts, and then the exhale was like I almost used gravity to exhale
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
And I just dropped my shoulders and my rib cage right on, and it felt so nice, and it also it readied me for the next set of four, which was cool.
And that's what's nice when you inhale properly. You have so much pressure in here, you don't have to exhale. The exhale just comes kind of passively. And then you can actively exhale by pushing the navel in at the end of the exhale. So, you know, with a full breath of air, I, what I sense we're doing with emotions is very often when we get nervous and tight, the body gets tight, and then we don't breathe fully. And then we get used to having very shallow breath. So when we purposely breathe like this, what we're doing is it's kind of like you ever blow up a balloon and then the balloon is fresh, it's very hard to blow up. You got to stretch the thing and then you can, okay, the body's no different than that, you know? And when we feel tight in our body, we tend to feel tight in our emotions and in our mind and use a little bit tighter in our behavior, our interactions. So Nikki, how about you?
I really like the whole sequence, um, with starting with the shoulders, you know, and doing the navel stretch. Um, because are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little muffled, it sounds like. Do you have a
Let me get
mic?
my headphones. One second.
Okay.
Okay, is this any better?
That's way like 1,000 times.
This is like so frustrating because some days it's perfect and I don't need them, and
Yeah.
then I forget. Yeah, I have them, somewhere else in the house, and then it doesn't work that well. But anyway, I'm glad it's working. So the whole sequence was really good. Loosening up the body, doing the shoulders back and forth. I've been having a tremendous amount of stress and being on the computer a lot, and that really helped. And I've been feeling like hunched over, and that really helped to loosen up. And then doing the neck thing helped loosen up more, and all of that helped to loosen up to make room for the breath. And then the breath came in, and I just felt a lot of peace, like just calm. So that sequence was beautiful.
Yeah, and notice, this is one of the things like the Zen Buddhists, and I'll give you an insight of this, is, Zen Buddhists are all just about meditating. They don't really do much movement or breath. And they just sit down, but, when you sit down, meditation is like the ultimate. If you can get into a quiet space in your mind, your emotions and your body will follow and your energy will follow. The tough part about it is if you're a little disturbed in your emotions and you're a little rigid in your body, it takes a lot of sitting in order for these areas to let go, unless you're a really experienced meditator. So if you add two things on front of it, body movement to open the body, and then breath to open more of the subtle aspects inside the gut, inside the solar plexus and the organs. Now all of a sudden, talk about tilling the soil, you've gone in there and you've really opened things up so that the body is moving with you instead of against you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
It's so simple. Once you understand it, it's like, yeah, it works that way. And then what you can use, and this is one thing, is when we're with clients, is that you can bring people through the sequence. They don't have to know why. What you're doing is you're just opening up their body where they might be quite stressed. And people, when you talk to them, most likely will let you know where it is that they're feeling their stress. I was talking with a client today, and he was talking about his gut. So what we started doing was we started doing a breath exercise that moved his navel. And it just allowed for that area in his body to loosen up and him to become aware of it and not press against it or fight it. So same thing could be in the solar plexus, same thing could be in the heart, or as you felt with the neck rolls, your neck and your shoulders, ways of releasing that.
Well, I liked that it was static. I mean, semi-static.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a rotating around. It was like, okay, focus on one side, focus on the other, and really, really get in there.
In micro movements, could you feel the different strands of muscles?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And that's what, when you talk about Eastern practices, we talk about awareness. And it's a very interesting thing. Everybody's wanting to become more aware of what's going on in the outside world. And really the practice is more like, no, we need to understand what's going on in here. Because if we don't even know the muscles are getting tight in my neck, or I got a little pit in my stomach, how aware are we, and what kind of filters do we have inside of our minds and our emotions that are causing us not to see the world as it is? So what we're doing is you become aware of this and the outside world becomes quite obvious, right? So I'd like to just quickly talk about why breath works so well. First off, it's portable. It's with you all the time. So notice all of us dropped into a very beautiful state, but we can probably, be honest that we're not in this kind of state throughout the whole day, right? It wasn't me that gave you that state. It was you that gave yourself this state, and this state already existed inside of you. You just slowed down enough to recognize that when I slow down and I pay attention to my body and I add a rhythm and it comes into wholeness, and my glandular system and my mind start working in an area where I'm not battling. Now, all of a sudden, there's just a, like you said, Brian, or excuse me, Joe, is I'm just here. It's good. Now, what do I want to do with that? Instead of there being more of a pressure or a panic or a weight that's driving us, it's more of just a presence and a, what I like to say is a passion and a compassion to do things, not an anxiety or a tension. Different things. We're using the emotions that are really powerful for us to drive our actions. Now, the reason why breath works so well is first, and I think you probably felt this, it connects you to your body. And all of us become a little disembodied throughout our day because we're so much in our head, problem solving, so much in the outside world, working with things. And we forget to come back to our body and to recognize, like, okay, I got some tension in here, or some emotions are coming up, and what are they really telling me? So when we connect with our body, now all of a sudden we settle. It's like I'm home, because this is our home for life. The other thing is that you notice when we pay attention to our breath with our awareness comes into our body. That's the body, the somatic awareness. But the other thing that takes place is that's a meditation right there. Is before we become that ultimate Zen Buddhist that we can just quiet our mind and go into a zero space, the next best thing is to create a single point of focus. And that single point of focus happens to be our breath, and it's moving. So it's beautiful as we're using the breath to focus the mind, and then the breath is bringing the mind or awareness down into our body. So it's doing two things. And, you know, not many people talk about this, but when we think about meditating, we always think about, I want to be the perfect meditator. And if I'm meditating and my mind wanders here or there, I start getting frustrated because I'm not meditating. Just to reassure you, you are meditating. That's the meditative process. It's kind of like my mind wanders and I'm teaching it how to come back to a single point of focus. And then I'm sitting there and I'm breathing, and then all of a sudden I start thinking about my favorite activity, or, you know, somebody else, or what I have to do tomorrow, and my mind wanders, and then I bring it back when I notice. So it's being aware of what your mind is doing, and are you able to focus at one point, and for how long? And if you can't, noticing when you do wander and bringing it back. And then eventually, once you start bringing it back, it will stay at that single point of focus for a longer and longer period of time. And that's what meditation really is.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So let's say that you find yourself, like, you sit down to meditate and you find yourself, like, your mind wandering a lot. Do you have tools that you use to kind of help stay more centered? And what are they?
Follow your breath.
Okay.
It's not any different. You know, we know this stuff from a standpoint, like when we want to go to sleep, what's the old way that we would fall asleep?
Counting sheep?
Exactly. So we go to sleep and it's like our mind's going all over the place. I can't stop it. Okay, I just start watching sheep jumping over a fence, and eventually I'm out. Okay, now we're doing something a little bit different. We're trying to get to a state of calm and peace, and meditation is not going offline. It's getting quiet, but staying awake and aware. Noticing that there's a witness in here that can watch everything that's taking place. My energy, my emotions, my physical demeanor, my relationship with the world and the outside world. And that witness is what's watching all the dynamic change that's taking place all the time in our lives.
So going back to the follow your breath, though, I guess my question was more, is there a certain breath technique that you use, like this 4-part inhale or a 4-part breath, or is there a certain one that you kind of tend to go to?
This is a nice one because I find pattern, you know, the body really responds to a pattern, a rhythm, and it builds over time. So, you know, 4 inhale, long. Other thing is just long, slow, deep breathing. Because
I
what
mean,
happens is long, slow, deep breathing, what it does is it creates a nice balance. Long inhale, long exhale. You're starting to feel the inhales are balancing with the exhales. The other thing you can do is it's called a dristi, is that when your eyes are closed, you can roll them up and focus at the point between your brows. Go ahead and close your eyes and roll your eyes up there. And feel how you can lock your eyes at that point. You might feel a little bit of tension behind your eyes. That's your optical nerve. Now there's a single point of focus. That's what mudras, the hand postures, that's what a dristi, an eye posture, and that's what focusing on the breath does. These are all single points of focus, different ways of doing it. That makes sense?
yeah, cool.
Okay. The other thing is rhythm. As you know, rhythm helps quiet the mind, but what it tends to do is when we get fragmented, notice we get fragmented when we're out of rhythm, out of sync with ourselves. Too many things going on, too much noise around us, which isn't rhythmic noise like at the ocean. It's more chaotic noise all over the place. And when we start absorbing that, and then we start getting frayed at our edges, you know, our emotions and our mind and our body are all a little bit separate. But then when we add rhythm, these things start coming together and linking and overlaying. This is what wholeness is about. That holistic feeling of I came back to my body and I can feel my mind, my body, and my emotions, my energy, and I can just sit in it. If we can maintain that, we're in a pretty good space. And rhythm, you can see this with music. I'm in a crappy situation. I turn on my favorite song. In a couple minutes, I'm not that bad. I'm a little bit closer home. We know what rhythm does. We know what whistling does. We know what humming does. We know what humming to a baby does. It's instinctual. We're telling them it's okay, right? We know what rhythm does from the standpoint of being at the beach and hearing the waves, the rhythm and the white sound of rivers and streams, air moving through the trees, the palm trees making a beautiful rustling sound. All of these are just natural, organic rhythms that bring us back to ourselves. Fire trucks, fire engines, screaming kids, motorcycles with big exhausts, they don't do it, right? Ever been down in downtown New York? Yeah. I mean, it's exciting. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of energy, but it weighs on the psyche. It weighs on the nerves. I mean, Joe, you know this. You went to Ojai for a reason, right?
Yeah. As you're thinking about this, I'm thinking about Delhi. It's like, oh yeah, that's a whole situation that is just, you just wear it I wore it the entire time I was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so rhythm can bring us into wholeness. There's an energetic component too, is that we spend so much time wasting energy trying to manage our stress instead of just recognizing I'm in myself, I'm feeling stress, I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling fear, and what is it telling me? And how do I need to work with it and express what it's showing me instead of trying to push against it and deny it, or being so focused in the outside world I don't even recognize it until it gets so bad I got a headache or I've got some chronic activity going on in my body or my emotions. So energy, really important. Where that's what the ultimate level of this is either we're fragmented in our energy or we're harmonious in our energy. We're either expanded in our energy. I got energy and I can give to people, or I'm low on energy and I'm contracting back down. And knowing ourselves at that level is a really important thing, and breath allows us to feel that area. And then lastly, the reason why breath works so well is when all of this starts happening and coming together, we're connected to our body. The mind is quiet. We have rhythm, so there's wholeness, and the body is rhythmic. And we got so many rhythms going on inside our body, so that when we get a bigger rhythm that synchronizes it all, we just feel like we're here and whole. When our energies are even and balanced, now all of a sudden the body starts, and we've talked about this before, the body starts expressing itself in a really beautiful way. The endocrine system moves from a negative, protective, fight and flight posture, which has a lot of adrenaline and cortisol in it, and norepinephrine, and it moves into dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, the higher glands. And when that happens, that's the chemistry of happiness, of joy, of love, when it's balanced and it's there. So this is why breath works so powerfully. It's working at all these levels. And what's amazing is we have control of it, and it's free. And how many things do we pay for trying to get those same effects? Right? Our economy is based on it. Our medical system is based on it. So we've been duped a little bit, but we can undupe ourselves. So I'm gonna share the screen with you, and I'd like to. This is moving into. Let's see. I think this is right. I'll just share my desktop. Okay, can you both see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a quick presentation on breath, sound, rhythm, and the relationship to our endocrine system and the chakras. And when I look at endocrine system and chakras, the chakras are the old, subtle, experiential map of the body and emotions and energy within it. The endocrine system is the more modern, biological, mechanical representation of the same thing. And how does breath and sound and rhythm, well, you've already experienced how breath and rhythm can shift that, can shift the energy in the chakras, which is really changing the energy within the endocrine system, so that you can actually feel what's taking place within that. Quick overview. Are you both of you familiar with the chakras? Okay,
I have a quick question on the chakras. I've seen people have these cameras that like kind of take a picture. Are those things for real?
Who knows?
Okay.
I would say what you do is we always want the tangible thing that shows, hey, look I can see my chakra. Well,
Right.
we're working at such a subtle level that you can only feel the chakras, because the chakras are changing all the time. It's a real time understanding of where I'm at, and am I balanced or imbalanced, and where am I balanced and imbalanced, so that I can get back into balance and be closer to who I am, more aligned, so my energies are working for me instead of against me. Just quick overview, chakras, lower chakras are the earthy aspects of life. Root chakra, survival, sacral, emotions, validation, sexuality, solar plexus, power. So if you look at anything that's going on in this world that's a little messed up, it tends to be the lower chakras that are driving it. I'm scared. I'm in survival mode. I don't feel like I belong. Sacral, I can't manage my emotions. I love good emotions. I don't know how to deal with my bad emotions. I need validation. I can't validate myself. So I'm going out in the world always trying to validate who I am. And then solar plexus. Either I don't have enough energy to do what I know I need to do, or because I'm anxious and scared and I'm looking for validation, I use that energy that I have, and I might have lots of energy to try to control the world. You ever been around somebody that's really controlling? Okay. Their outlook is, I feel like crap inside. I'm insecure. I want to feel safe. So I got to manage my outside world in order for my inside world to feel good. So wherever they go, they're always micromanaging everybody. And what we have to do is we have to go inside and understand, okay, where do I feel insecure and why? And then I can resolve this. So this is a little bit of what we're doing from an energetic and awareness standpoint. So lower chakra is something called a lower triangle. And this is our earthly part of our being. This is the animal part of our being, if you want to say. Then there's this, the upper chakras, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. You know, the throat is about expression. And look at, as human beings, we can express in ways that are pretty amazing. And because of that expression, we can create incredible amounts in our world, like no other creature that is on this earth. Okay, so it's a really gift, but it's a subtle gift. You know, language is a subtle gift, and it's not just speaking. We speak in so many different ways, many of them unconsciously. So the throat is this ability to be able to really express. Third eye is the ability to perceive. We see with our eyes, we perceive with our minds. So whatever is going on in our minds, you know, Joe, I might be looking at you and looking at the surface of you with my eyes and thinking that's all there is. But if my third eye is working, I can look in behind, like, okay, Joe's acting like this. What's going on inside? I might be able to perceive the subtle aspects of your being and your personality. Or I can just feel who you are without even speaking to you, because you give off a certain presence. And I get to locate you very quickly without a lot of analytical thought. It's more of an intuitive feeling. And then the crown is, you know, when we can get rid of our ego temporarily, because you can't permanently get rid of the ego, and get to an expansive state of unity. Now, all of a sudden, you can see your integration, your connection to all of Earth, to all of humanity, to the universe. You're made of stardust, you're made of Earth, you're connected to every being in this world, and your actions have an effect on this world, even if you can't quantify it. And this happens to be our upper triangle. So this is kind of our lower triangle is our earthly connection. It's, if you want to look at the roots in a tree, it's what grounds us if it's solid, and if it's unsolid, we're ungrounded. And the upper chakras are the branches and the leaves and the tender twigs that can feel all the sensitivity of weather, of wind. It can create shade for and environments for other people and self. And then the trunk, the core, the thing that holds it all together is the heart. You got this very human aspect, that how is it that I can be on this earth and I can be connected in a higher plane of being able to see what this human experience is all about. And it's not one or the other. But notice in this world, people live down here or they tend to live up here. Artsy, philosophers, intellectuals, heathens, really earthly, central-based beings down here. And it's very easy just to say, I'm in one or the other, and the other one doesn't exist. Up here, people look at this lower thing and think it's beneath them. Down here, they look at the upper realms and look at it as a fantasy. Yeah, whatever. And what we can do is we can sit in the heart and we can be in both places at the same time. But you have to feel that place. You can't intellectualize it. You need to be able to feel the balance between these two spaces. And that's what the chakras allow us to understand what we're trying to do through meditation, through our kind of work, through breath, through yoga, through expression. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll connect this, and you're going to see there's a nice overlay between Western and Eastern, the endocrine system, and how it overlays, and how different energies within the body and different stress within the body can actually affect the different glands. And each of these glands produces a certain chemical that creates a certain emotional experience and a certain perception of the world, both internally and externally.
So you don't have a gland for the crown?
It's the pineal gland. It's what Descartes said was the seat of the soul.
Oh, okay. I thought that I'm looking at this chart and I'm seeing the pineal and the pituitary together.
Yeah,
Um,
the pineal's right here and the pituitary's here. And it's not, Nikki, one thing you gotta, the way to look at this is it's not so exact.
mhm.
You know, everybody wants it to be perfectly mapped out and very objective and this line meets this line, and it's not. There's a nature to it. But the nature has a pattern to it, and that's what we're just trying to decode here.
Okay, it's interesting you got adrenals twice here.
Say that again?
I said it's interesting that you've got adrenals twice.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, I could see both of the emotional qualities that you've got to the left, you know, associated with the adrenals.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what the association with. You might actually go down here and you might say this might be adrenaline or this might be testosterone too,
Mhm.
you know, and
Mhm.
you know, and what's a female hormone? I'm losing my mind.
Estrogen.
Estrogen, excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you know, this isn't an exact map, but you can see there's kind of an overlay in respects to this where the Eastern philosophies were feeling it and sensing these experiences. And now the Western science, just in the last 50 years, has really understood the value of the endocrine system. And a great deal of science is now based about manipulating the expressions of these glandular systems. And not to our betterment to a great extent, right? But it's powerful, you know, when somebody's in a hole and they can't get out of, they don't know how to, and we don't know how to talk to them in a sense that can get them out. Take this pill, you'll feel different within a couple minutes. So here you go. Nice little expression of these different, really three of the main. You could put another one in here, which would be adrenaline. When it's really high, you could have fight or flight. But you can see that these are known experiences that we have, and there is a neurochemical balance to it. Each one's a little bit different. Each of us is a little bit different, but it's the nature of it is the same. And when we do the work that we do, either through yoga, through meditation, through therapy, through breath work, we can change this. That's what the feeling of openness and peace. We might have just gone from a state of anxiety that I've just increased my serotonin level, right? Or if something really nice happens, my heart blows open. And this is what it feels like, and this is what it expresses like. You got all that?
Mhm.
So why is this important? And how does this relate to rhythm and sound and all this? Well, do either of you sing by any chance?
I don't.
Myself,
Have you ever practiced singing, like been trained?
I have not.
Okay, so in singing, there are three main cavities that we use. There's the abdominal cavity, which actually is split into two, the abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. There's the thorax cavity, and then there's the cranial cavity or the sinus cavity. And each one of these creates a different tone that we're going to be practicing with and seeing that I can vibrate certain parts of my body just through different types of sounds. Now, one of the really important cavities, you know, this is a really important cavity because this is where we tend to feel our tough emotions in our abdominal cavities. And this area gets tight and can get locked up. The heart, we know we get your heart hurt, we end up protecting this. You can see people that have a sunken shoulders, they're protecting their heart unconsciously. So there are different expressions of emotions that are shown in the body, and we can access them through a subtler, we can do it through movement, which is what yoga and different types of arts are, movement arts are associated with, but we can do it on a deeper, subtler level that gets deeper into the body through sound. Now, a really important gland or sinus cavity, and I highlight this, is the sinus cavity. You got the pituitary gland right here. And the pituitary gland is the master gland. It controls and communicates with all the other glands. And this is one of the reasons why, and we'll feel this a little bit later, is in the different practices, you know, 2 words, om or ong. And just go ahead and, why don't we just go ong? And ong is like, you're going to say ong, and it's going to, you let it come up into your sinus cavity and see what that feels like. So go ahead, take a deep inhale.
Om.
Oh.
Ong, O-N-G. Ong.
Om.
Oh.
Let it extend for a long period of time. Hold it through your whole exhale. Ong. Can you feel how you can vibrate that area of your body quite easily? And if you look where the sinus cavity is located next to this pituitary gland, what you're doing is you're vibrating this pituitary gland. And when you vibrate the pituitary gland, you can get it to secrete in different ways. You can get it to be rhythmic in nature. And that rhythm actually starts expressing itself in the different neurochemistries that we just looked over. We create balance in the body. So you got the sinus cavity here, you got the pituitary gland here, and then in red there, you got the pineal gland. So this is a really important part of the body from a standpoint that, okay, modern science manipulates the chemistry that comes out of this. And the problem is we're out of balance, and we can force our way into balance through pills and through consuming things. Or what we can do is we can do things that are more natural, that bring rhythm and wholeness back to the body, and actually have that chemical expression be felt in the body. So if you look at this, there's different tones, and these are primal tones that are, just consider for a moment that 100,000 years ago, language didn't exist in the human race. Things were grunts and groans. How, Joe, would I tell you, or Nikki, would I tell you that I needed something? I'd go, ooh, ooh, right? And then that eventually got more sophisticated. But there's primal sounds that resonate different parts of their body and give a different representation of something. Good one is a heart center. It's not surprising that the word, we have it yam, but it's ma. You notice this right here, ma, vibrates the heart center. And around the world, guess what one of the main expressions or sounds are to describe mom?
Ma. Ma.
Ma. And in language that are not related to one another.
Mm-hmm.
What it is, you're vibrating your heart. Before we had language to get so sophisticated, it was like ma. You know, I'm connecting to my heart with this person that is, you know, my mother. So let's go ahead and let's practice this. And what I'd like you to do is just to sit up straight. And what we're going to do is just like the Om, we're going to take a deep inhale. We're going to chant about 3 or 4 of these for a long period of time, for maybe the whole exhale. And then when you are completely exhaled, you inhale in again. And then you do it again. We'll do it 3 times for each one. Now, this is the Sanskrit tone, and this is not really common to our ear or our body. bodies. So what we do is we have an English tone that fits a little bit more. Understand these sounds right here, the abdominal cavity are the deeper guttural sounds. Mud, you, go. The mid sounds are pay, ma, the heart center. And then the higher sounds are me or I is the sinus cavity. So we're resonating these three different cavities of the body. So let's start with mud. And what I suggest is you're going to feel it in your throat because that's where the sound starts. But see how much you can allow this sound to drop into your body and how deep it goes. It might go to your solar plexus. It might go to your navel. It might even go down to your hips. And the mud is mud. So let's take a deep inhale. Exhale. Deep inhale to begin. When you get the end of the breath, take a deep inhale. One more deep inhale. Just pause a moment. Let's just check in quickly. Where did you feel that?
I felt it lower. I don't know if
when I started the tone. Go ahead, Nikki.
Oh, no, go on.
Mm-hmm. So when I felt the tone, first I felt it in my solar plexus, and then it would drop down into I don't know. It wasn't quite at the base bottom of my pelvis, but it might have been at the top of the pelvis. Yeah. And when I would get distracted in my mind, it would come back up to the solar plexus. And then when I was with the tone, it would go back down. And then in the last one, I noticed that if I caught the sound in my throat a little bit more, it got stronger at that top of the pelvis place.
That's cool. Kind of like you're shooting it down there.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Nikki?
So I felt it, down in the lower chakras. I don't think it was all the way to the root. I think it was more like the sacral area.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like like stronger at the solar plexus, and then like a little weaker down at the the sacral, and maybe even down a little bit lower, but kind of like a upside down triangle, like the
picture there. Yeah.
Well, the volume of the vibration.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things I notice when I teach people this, and there's some people that it may only go down to the solar plexus, and what this tells me right away, how much tension they're holding in their gut. And they're not even aware of it. It's kind of like a sonar system, if the gut is being held stiff and there's obstacles in it, as that sound goes down, it's going to radiate off of that. So Nikki, where you felt that on the solar plexus, probably a little bit of tension in the solar plexus. Whereas if your solar plexus were a little bit more flexible, if we did some exercises to open your solar plexus, you might have felt it a little bit more solidly down in your navel and your hips.
I did feel it down to my navel. It just felt strong. It wasn't like a tube going down. It was
Yeah.
more like a upside down triangle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, let's try another one. This is at the solar plexus. This is go, and it's O. Go ahead, sit up. Go ahead, exhale. Take a deep inhale. When you're done, big inhale. One more inhale. Pause a second. Feel how that's engaged your body where the sound was toning. And let's just really do a really quick share so we can move right on to the next one. Joe?
Yeah, it was, I definitely caught it in the solar plexus, more on the left side than the right side. And it also felt like the tone sort of went below the solar plexus and then came back up. And I could catch it from both the top coming down and then the bottom coming back up.
Okay. And Nikki?
So that was interesting. Definitely felt it in the solar plexus, but like the first time I felt like my voice was projected out more and I didn't really feel the vibration. But then when I kind of brought it back into the cavity, it really was vibrating.
Good. Good. All right, we're going to do another one. I'd like you to put your hands on your heart for this one. So you can really feel it. This is ma, ma. So deep inhale. Go ahead, exhale. Deep inhale. Ma. When you're done, deep inhale. One more time, deep inhale. Deep inhale, pause for a moment. Slowly exhale. Let's do another quick share. One more one that we'll be doing right after this. So Joe.
Yeah, it feels a lot like that first go around is like getting myself in tune. You know, the second half of the tone of the first time, that's when I catch it.
Yeah.
And then again, it was a lot of like the tone hit the heart, and then also it seemed like the tone was coming up from below and hitting my heart from below as well. Yeah.
Good. How about you, Nikki?
So that one was really cool because I could totally feel like the heart kind of a little bit, not low, but like kind of merging a little bit with the solar plexus.
Yeah.
But also, externally with my hands on my heart.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Okay, now as you guys are working with people, understand, people will give you indications of where they're holding their emotions. If it's deep emotions in your gut, the solar plexus might be locked up and pushing down like an emotional trash compactor. And how do you teach somebody to let go of their solar plexus when they don't even know and they're aware that they're doing this? Okay, what's nice is you've got these tones and breathing. Breathing first to loosen, and then the tone you can feel. You feel how subtle this is, but how deep it is?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not any part of your heart that got missed on this. It's the sound just vibrates, and it's like eventually any area that's loose just starts releasing itself. And because there's glands associated with the area too, the glands hold stress too. And because they hold stress, they definitely express different ways when they're stressed or not stressed. So the last one we're going to do is we're going to do I. And I, when you do I, let the sound go up through the back of the throat and up through the brow or through the crown of the head. Really feel that. So let's sit up straight. Deep inhale. Exhale. Deep inhale. As you do this, let the sound expand within your head. Deep inhale. One more time. Deep inhale. Deep inhale. Exhale. Pause for a moment. Okay, it looks like you're releasing a lot there.
My yawning.
Yeah. That's what happens. I watch this with a lot of clients I work with, is that when we relax, this yawning is like one of the deeper stress reliefs in the gut.
Oh,
People will naturally start yawning when they relax. And what's interesting is socially we're not allowed to yawn because it's interpreted as that, you know, you're bored or you're not interested. So we often hold it in until someone else yawns. Now it's socially acceptable to start, and everybody starts yawning. So how was that one for you?
I had to remove my headphones because it kind of got distracting, and so the second and third time, you know, it was kind of cool. I got the sound up into like the nasal cavity there.
Yeah.
But it was like the whole kind of head area.
It's almost like white noise, isn't it? Just taking
Yeah.
over the inside of the head, but a pleasant white noise.
Right.
Yeah. How are you, Joe?
Yeah, this one was great. This is where I've been really noticing a lot of my tension is being held lately, or this is sort of where my work is, and just immediate release here, 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 and then also with each tone there were images that would come to life for me.
Yeah, like when we start letting go
Yeah.
of the stress inside our body physically in deep, like before the stress ever shows up in our shoulders and in our head through headaches, it's down in our nervous system. That's where the stress first starts. And then we're not sensitive enough. We don't recognize it there. So it propagates and it gets bigger, and it might get into the muscles and the fascia, and we still ignore it. So it gets even worse. And what it's really just telling you is, hey, wake up. The body's trying to tell you something and we just keep ignoring it, and then it will get to a point where you can't ignore it. And what's interesting, I think I mentioned this before, you know, I got a pretty cool doctor who's a triathlete and he knows the body really well. And I asked him, I said, you know, I let him know what I do for work and everything. And I go, of the people you see, how much of this issue that people have is stress related? And he just started laughing. He says, it all is. He says, everything down to heart disease, blood pressure, diabetes, even cancer. You know, we're holding the body in a tight, unnatural way. And when the body's stressed, our natural primal response to it is the body's stressed. Shut off all the long-term things. Shut off digestion, shut off the immune system, and just get in fight and flight. You need a pumping heart, high blood sugar, and high pressure and high blood pressure in order to get out of the situation. The body doesn't know that this is us stressing ourselves. It's not something physical in the world we need to get away from. But the body responds the same way. And if we hold our body that way, and we can because we're cognitive beings that can create imaginations about things that don't exist, but they impact our body, they create deep stress. And if our immune system is depressed for long periods of time, we just become more susceptible to different diseases. We might be predisposed towards a disease, and when we put it under stress, we become much more disposed towards that disease. I'm going to unshare here. And I'd like to have one other experience. I appreciate you going a little bit longer than what we had expected. And, you know, we found, I mean, were you surprised that you could tone different parts of your body?
A little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not something we do. It's like, and to know that different tones, and this is the nature of music. Now, music that we listen to can actually cause different rhythms in the body. But even more so, when we sing, you can feel we're creating a rhythm in the body in different places and we're moving it around. So this is the nature of music, but on a more base level, mantras and different types of sounds, what they are is they're more primal sounds. You don't even have to know the meaning of them. What they do is they start creating a rhythmic pattern in the body. It's an energetic pattern. And what it does is it ends up being then an emotional expression. So the way this is explained actually in the Eastern practices is that when somebody gets into an extremely steep state of being, where they're just centered and whole and their heart is open, now all of a sudden some expression of sound comes through that. And that expression mimics, it expresses what is being felt at that moment, so that when somebody repeats that, that same energetic pattern is created in your own body through resonating different parts of your body in different patterns. And this is very similar to, like, you know, you look at some of the best singers and songwriters, particularly songwriters that have been around, is when somebody writes a song that comes from your heart, it is not like they're mathematically trying to create the biggest song or the most popular song. What they have is they have a deep expression of what it is to be human, and somehow they connected that to sound and expression. And then when someone else hears it, they feel that. Think of those sappy songs that we listen to when we want to feel all like moody, or, you know, those happy songs that are upbeat that just are like dancing around, you know? And this is what sound does, but it has a deeper effect. It's the endocrine system, and it's the body that we're synchronizing. So I've got a song, a mantra here. It's very simple. You don't even have to know what it stands or means or the expression of it. It's Ong, and it's Om for a very long period of time. Om. The next word is so, S-O. So, and you're going to hear that in the navel. So, and then hung, and it goes right back up. Hung. And we're just going to sit here and we're going to chant this for, maybe about 3-5 minutes and see what the experience of it is. And what I ask you to do is, now that you know that different sounds can move and be expressed in different parts of the body, feel the pattern that's being created in your body, but then also feel what that emotionally and energetically feels like, and mentally. Mantras are called, the expression of a mantra is man is mind and tra is wave. So mantras are a mind wave. And they knew this. We're creating a pattern that synchronizes and brings the mind and the body back into harmony. You ready? Okay. Can you hear this? The vibration really go up to your sinuses. Really deep. Slowly exhale. Just pause for a moment. Feel what we had talked about is there's an energetic pattern that's vibrated through the body, and you're doing it. You're vibrating the lower cavity, the abdominal cavity, the throat cavity, and the sinus cavity. And feel what the experience of that is. We only did it for about 6 minutes. Sometimes if this is new, it takes a little bit of time to settle into it, to just to relax and let the vibrations work. When you do it for 11, 15, and 22 minutes, you get totally absorbed in the rhythm. Go ahead, let's open our eyes. Now, one thing is, doing this kind of mantra. I'm just doing this to help you see how we can shift things, how sound, how rhythm, how breath. Mantras also, if you notice, there was a rhythm there with breath. It's very subtle, but it's a long exhale and then a long inhale. So what was your experience, Joe?
Yeah, I have what was I just had the word, but now I lost it. There's a pulse. There's a pulsing happening, and it is multi-layered. It is sort of like guttural, and then chest, throat, and then also in the nasal cavity. And it's sort of it's like, I guess what's coming up for me is a picture of a wave. It's a wave. Like, yeah.
So you can feel, we felt this with breath already, how breath can create that wave. A deep inhale and a deep exhale brings harmony, synchronicity, balance back to the body. And the breath that's just inhaling and exhaling. Now this, you can feel when you vibrate your gut, you're vibrating your liver, you're vibrating your pancreas, you're vibrating the adrenal glands, your intestines, your belly, your whole hip region. And then when you come up to your heart, the top of your lungs, the throat, the back of your neck, and your sinus cavity, the big one, pituitary and pineal gland. I mean, I was kind of doing it a little off and on with you, and I can feel kind of like a lightness all over this part of my head. It feels like I did a really deep meditation. And that's a beauty of mantra and sound and rhythm, is it can get us there extremely quickly. Nikki, how about you?
I really felt a lot of the vibration in my head, and I felt like it kind of, I don't know, like loosened, opened up like the crown.
Yeah. We get into such a neural pattern of thinking. Sometimes it's quite unconscious. And as I mentioned, the mind wave is we're creating a wave in the mind that loosens the focus of the ego and the cognitive mind, so that we can just be present. There can be an awareness, but a spatial awareness that doesn't have a lot of structure to it. And at least from my experience, that's a creative realm. That's the unmanifested aspect of our being, where then we can start manifesting from. But if we're stuck in a structure, sometimes this is the people we work with. They're stuck in a structure and I don't know how the hell to get out of this. I have it in my head, I have it in my emotions, I have it in my body. And how is it that I free myself from this and find another pattern to move from? Hopefully not as rigid of a pattern, a more rhythmic pattern, something that's more like a dance, so that I can move with life instead of trying to find this static place that is fixed, that's my sanctuary. It's more like, no, I just want to feel the movement of life and be able to move with it and know I have the skills to do it. But there's a certain level of surrender that's needed for that to take place. And where does that surrender come from, right? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it unconscious? Is it conscious? A little bit of both and all of those. So we use these tools to try to loosen this. And as I keep repeating is, you know, what we do in the medical industry through pharmaceuticals can be done through practice and through sound and through breath. And the better part about it is that once you know how to navigate that area, you know that these tools and technology are available. And if I learn them and I master them, they're just like breathing. I just know them and I know where I'm at and I know what I need to do to shift out. I feel myself getting stressed. Okay, I know how I get stressed and I know how to get out of it. I know how to listen to my stress and express it if it's telling me something. All makes sense?
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really, I sense this is the new space that we need to be able to move into. We just can't, I mean, currently 20% of adults are on antidepressants. That's not living, and that's not health. Add to that the amount of people that are abusing all kinds of alcohol and drugs to escape an experience they have inside themselves that they don't know how to engage, probably moves more to about 50% of humanity. So we need to know how to feel, how to be aware of what we're feeling, and how to move, how to, and if we don't know, we need to know where to go to learn this stuff so that we can become masters of our own life, of our own emotions, our own mind. So, hey, I appreciate you. We ran way over about a half hour, but I just want to see if there's any final thoughts and all, and then, you know, we'll let you go.
I do have a question about the chanting. One of the things that I had heard is that part of the chanting is like acupressure points, but it's like where your tongue is on the top of your mouth, the roof of your mouth.
Yeah, there's what they call meridians, or in Chinese and in the Indian practice, it's called nadis. And there are different pressure points on the, so when you chant, the tongue is moving and activating those different areas. The whole idea behind it is that there's sensitivity there that actually goes up and activates the pituitary and pineal gland as much as the sound is actually doing that. And there's a secretion. Now, I'm going to use an analogy here that is, well, actually, it's a male and female analogy. On the other end of our body, when we have sex, particularly men, there's a certain rhythm, vibration, and sensitivity that actually activates the prostrate gland. We don't activate it and activate it directly. We activate it indirectly. And when it gets to a certain point that the rhythm is just right, it secretes. It's called an orgasm. Okay, that same thing applies up here in the pituitary and the pineal gland. When you get into the deeper aspects of Eastern philosophy, and when people get into deep forms, when they talk about nirvana, it's literally the pituitary and the pineal gland orgasming. You have a mental orgasm instead of a physical orgasm. And you have the expression, serotonin, dopamine, in quantities that are not the average quantities that we have flowing through our body. And our heart opens up and space is available. And maybe even, they haven't proven this yet, but you know, things like DMT, the pineal gland. You know, when the pineal gland activates, can DMT get created in these special moments? And DMT, if you've ever experienced DMT, the spirit molecule. It allows us to transcend, to open, to let go of our individuality for a moment and to experience the expansiveness that we are a part of, that the cognitive mind on its own can't comprehend or can't experience. We've got to drop the mind for a moment to be able to feel that and to experience that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Joe, how about you? Any last thoughts or?
You know, there were a lot throughout the time. Nothing's coming to me now except for, and this is probably a discussion for another time, but the idea of integrating, not only integrating the practices into our lives, which is, you know, which which is sort of self-explanatory, but also integrating these moments and sort of the teachings of these moments into our ordinary reality, our ordinary consciousness times as well. I'm curious about that.
Yes.
I know that that's a big thing to unpack, but that's what comes up for me.
Well, and you can see, Joe, you know, we all got born into a culture that has tried to define a reality for us. And we can see that reality is changing very drastically right now, right? So what is the real reality? We have a social reality to allow this culture to work, but how restrictive is it? And I think a lot of people are feeling it's quite restrictive. That's the reason why there's so many people that are on antidepressants, right?
Yep.
So that ability to really let go and to be curious about that. And for both of you, you know, when we work with people, these tools, and I this is at my gut level, these tools are the integrative tools. This is how you give somebody an experience by being with them that shows them there's something different. But then how do you get there ever again?
Yeah.
You teach them how to be able to do that on their own. You give them the tools so that they become the navigators and the masters of them. They have to become sensitive. They have to become aware, and they have to practice. They got to undo old patterns, which is challenging. But when you see these patterns and you see how they're restricting your life, there's a pretty big motivation to do something about it. And this is not, you can feel this is not a cognitive process, even though there's a cognitive understanding associated with this. This is totally somatic. I shifted my state of being. Wow, I can do that? Now will I do it on a regular basis, particularly when I start becoming activated in my own life? Am I aware that this tool is available to me wherever I am, especially breath? And then this state of being is just that. I don't have to try to work for it. I just know this state is inside me. I reside in it. And then when I feel myself moving out of it, I'm aware of moving out of it, and I do whatever I have to do to get back into balance. And most of us have been acclimated to a very imbalanced experience in our lives internally, because it's been modeled to us since we were young kids. Most of the things we've learned as kids were not what our parents taught us. It's how they behaved to different circumstances and situations. And those unconsciously got buried in our minds. As, oh, this is how you deal with adversity. This is how you deal with obstructions and issues. And this is how you deal with love and all these things. And what we're doing is we're unearthing these things and rewriting them on many levels, as we know. And we have many tools to do it. Some pretty powerful, some more gentle. So I shall leave you both with that. I just appreciate, you know, you taking the time. I hope you're finding this really valuable, and I hope you use it. You know, if you ever have any questions as you're going through your work and you need to bounce something off me, there's thousands of breaths and there's thousands of mantras, and each one of them can create a different experience as you're starting to, at least you've recognized this in the different breaths we've done.